Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our regular daily Q&A session here for the Rishikesh Kirtan Fest 2026. Every evening we get together here and we have some discussions, questions, answers. We even take them from people getting henna done. We can bring the mic over there if necessary. But it begins with a question. What brave soul amongst you would like to put forward a question to get us started today? Any volunteers? And this is one of the most important parts. This is a two-way street over here. It only works with the... There we go, in the back row. We're going to send the microphone back to you. One moment, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hari all. Why we are coming earth and what is your purpose for living earth? Why we are coming earth and what is purpose in living earth?
Well, that's a big fundamental question, isn't it? Do you want all the mysteries of the universe? Well, that's fair enough. There's many ways that we could approach this question, but I'll approach it the way we were discussing it here the other morning, and we may have touched on it a little bit last night too. And think about this. I want you to think carefully about this. What is your name, sir? Yespal. That what's keeping us here in this world is our desire. Okay, this is the most fundamental thing we have to keep in mind. It's our desire that's keeping us here. So it's by letting go of that desire that we can become free. This is the basic thing I want to get across. But let's look a little bit more into this. Do you have a son? No? Okay. But you've been a son. You are a son. Okay. So sometimes there's a father, he has a little boy. Maybe the boy is 3 years old. And the father drives the car. When the little boy sees the father driving the car, what desire springs up inside him? You understand? I'll say it again. When the little boy sees his father driving the car, what desire springs up in the boy, in the heart of the boy? What desire? I want to drive a car too. Just like daddy's driving the car. I want to drive. Right? And it can be a really strong desire. They can become very frustrated if the desire is not fulfilled. They may even cry, yell, scream. But the fact is that, and this is important, that reality does not facilitate that desire. Right? He doesn't have legs that are long enough. He doesn't have arms that are long enough. He doesn't have the motor skills that are necessary. He's incapable of driving that car. Reality will not facilitate that desire. So therefore, illusion needs to be created. And the nature of the illusion is that it's always a reflection of the reality. Okay? So the reality is that there's a real car. The boy can't drive the car, but he wants to drive the car. He needs an illusion of a car in order to get the feeling, to fulfill that desire that he has. So the father provides an illusory car. Maybe even it can be as simple as a cardboard box. Draw some wheels on it, right? Gives him something to hold on to like as a steering wheel. And the boy is sitting in the cardboard box, enjoying the illusion and the feeling of what it's like to drive a car. Make sense? Okay. If someone were to come along and say to that boy, this isn't a car, this is a cardboard box. Well, the boy won't appreciate that, right? He wants to experience this feeling, and the illusion is an important part of that he feels like I'm in a car. You understand? So similarly, there are desires that we have that reality does not facilitate. Okay? And if we want to narrow it down, essentially, now we're going back to Upanishads now, ancient Upanishads. Very important verse there. Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. Amongst the many eternal beings in existence, there's one eternal being. Chaitanas Chaitananam. Amongst the many conscious beings, unlimited conscious beings, there's one conscious being. Eko bahunam yo vididati kaman. The many are dependent on the one. There's one central Ishvara. There's one central being. There's one central controller. There's one essential being from which every other being comes, in which every other being depends, upon which every other being depends. That's the supreme. That's God. That's the Lord. And so this verse is helping us understand the ontologically, who we are and how this world operates. That there's a center, that there's a root. So root, when we say root, we can think of a tree. Sometimes you see a very big tree. It has many, many thousands of leaves on it, right? More than you can count. But every single leaf is dependent on the root. It's the root that draws in the nutrients. It's the root that provides the nourishment and maintains every leaf on the tree. So many, many leaves, one root. So this universe is like that. We're all connected. Every one of us, none of us are actually truly disconnected. We're all dependent. But we might think, what would it be like if I were not just one little leaf? What if I were the center? What if I were in the middle of the equation? But reality does not facilitate that. So we're given an illusory realm in which we can, each one of us can move through this world pursuing the idea that I'm the center of the world, that this world should revolve around me, that my desires are meant to be fulfilled in this world. Let me approach this. Let me pursue this desire. And according to our karma, if our karma is good, if we behave in such a way where we accrue good karma, then that illusion can get feel more and more realistic, and we can get a deeper sense of that being the center. So some people in this world, they have great fame, great wealth, great influence, great beauty, great power. These are the qualities of God. And if our karma is high enough in this world, we can move through this world and feel some people step out on a stage. There's thousands of people cheer, we love you. You're the best. You mean so much to us. You've changed my life. Right? And they're taking that feeling in. What we tend to see is that actually we're not very good at we can't handle it, actually. Adoration, fame, power. We see that, like in the United States, they had this television show. I think it was called, I forget what it was called. But it was like documentaries on the lives of famous musicians. And the arc of the story was always very similar. They're young and they're unknown, and it's exciting, and they're trying to get their big break, and it's fun, and then they finally break open and they become famous, and it's really exciting. And there's lots of sex, there's lots of drugs, there's lots of fame and lots of money. They buy a huge house. They're on the cover of all of the magazines, and everything they wanted, now they're getting it. They feel like they're the center of all the attention. But then very soon after that, we see they can't handle it. It becomes problematic. There's too many things going on, and it's too confusing, and along with that fame comes infamy, and that hurts. And the feeling that they get when they step out on the stage, they like that feeling all the time, but they don't have it all the time. And then they start to take more drugs, and then they have drug addiction, and then they buy their motorcycle and they crash the motorcycle and they end up in the hospital. And then they begin to realize, I need to change. and then they try to come back, but they're not as famous as they were before, and then their life just kind of like goes. It was like kind of all the stories are like, we're not so good at being the enjoyers of this world. Sri Krishna, unlimited fame, unlimited beauty, unlimited wealth, unlimited power, unlimited opulence, unlimited lovers, but every one of them is satisfied, right? We can't do that. Man takes on one lover, maybe he can do okay. Takes on the second one, suddenly his whole world becomes anxiety and problematic, and so many issues and struggles, right? What to speak of Krishna? It's so many. So what keeps us in this material world is that we haven't let go of that desire yet. Letting go of that desire is something that the sages call sharanagati, surrender. Right? Surrender means I stop resisting. The truth, the reality, is that I'm one small leaf on the tree, that I revolve around the central figure, which is Sri Krishna. But actually, that's a beautiful place to be. It's completely satisfying. It's right exactly how I fit. And when I fit in, and when I surrender to that, stop resisting that truth, surrender to the truth, then my desires can be fulfilled in reality. And I don't no longer have to be stuck in the world of illusion. And then within the world of illusion, certain programs are running, like the law of karma and the influence of time. And these tend to make this world very complicated for us. The spiritual realm, if my desires are aligned with the spiritual truth, then I can transcend the material realm, enter back into the spiritual realm, and be perfectly situated, fully experiencing my own spiritual, internal, blissful nature. That's the goal of yoga. Is that okay? All right. Thank you so much. Good question. Good start. Any other questions out there? Just getting started tonight. Follow up? Jodhpur. Oh, I've never been to Jodhpur, but I see that it seems to be a very beautiful place. They call it the blue city, right? Yeah. Blue city. And they ride camels. And you can go ride the camel out into the desert. I've always thought I would like to get on a camel out in Jodhpur, ride through the night on the camel, listening to Kirtan. Somehow that's a desire of mine. Maybe that desire will be fulfilled. Okay. Any other questions? We're looking for questions. Hey, Zui. How are you feeling? Your health is good? A little bit on getting better. Okay. You let us know if you need any help. She can help you.
Thank you. I had a question because today I just was talking to a friend and he told me that there's no difference between a spiritual and material world, that is the same at the same time, but it's just a matter of consciousness. Regarding your consciousness, you will perceive material or spiritual, but it's the same. What's your opinion on this?
It's a subtle topic. In one sense, that is true, right? But according to it, can be the same thing can be explained in different ways. So in one sense, this is the statement of the Upanishads also. What is it? Sarva kalvidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman, meaning everything. Ultimately, everything. In one sense, everything is the energy of the Supreme, of the Absolute. But that energy, Srila Prabhupada would use an analogy like this. He said that the expert electrician can take the same electricity and manifest that electricity as cold, like in a refrigerator or an air conditioner, or as heat, like in an electric heater or an oven. So same electricity manifesting as cold here, heat there, right? So are they different? It's the same electricity, but manifesting in very different ways. And so everything, the spiritual realm, the material realm, the Brahma Jyoti, the Goloka Vrindavan, our bodies, our very selves. Everything is the energy of Sri Krishna. Sarva Kalvidam Brahma is the energy of the Parabrahman, Sri Krishna. But it's manifesting in different ways and it's functioning in different ways. So this, for instance, the very famous statement, I believe, of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that in the spiritual realm, time, the force of time, is conspicuous. Have you ever heard this? Time is conspicuous by its absence there. In other words, within that realm, there's no destructive force of time. What does the force of... The yogis, when they speak of time, they speak of it more like philosophers speak of time. Not so much about measurements like minutes and hours and days and months and years. But when they speak of time, they speak of it as a force. It's a force in nature. And what does the force of time do? Can anyone say? Yeah, it ages us, it changes things. It moves the material energy, changes it, pushes it through cycles of creation, maintenance, and ultimately destruction. So in a sense that time ages things and ultimately destroys things, and then they manifest again. That is the nature of the material energy. And in the spiritual energy, there's no force of time that's destroying things like this. So that would appear to be very different. But at the same time, you can look at it all and just say it's all part of one, it's all emanating from one source. And ultimately for the purpose of that source. It's all moving for the purpose of that source. And when you achieve the spiritual consciousness, you can be within the material realm. And it makes no difference whether it's material or spiritual, because you're just offering it all. And in that sense, it's all spiritual. The material, what really makes something spiritual is that it is moving around it's not disconnected from its purpose. It's not disconnected from its spiritual purpose. And so anything can be engaged in that spiritual purpose. And in a sense, it becomes spiritualized. So like this microphone, is it material or spiritual? Well, it's made out of material energy. It's here today. It won't be here if you come back 50 years from now or 100 years from now or 1,000 years from now. The metal, the different cells that make up the metal here, they'll be merged into the material energy in some other way. And this is metal also. And there's probably some plastic in there, and that'll probably still be around. but given enough time, that'll be gone too. And so the material ingredients of it will shift, move, take on new forms. But in a higher way, we can understand it's spiritual if it's engaged for the spiritual purpose, right? And in a similar way, even though we're in the material realm, if we're engaged in the spiritual purpose, our entire life becomes spiritualized. And you could say that it's all spiritual if you're seeing it from that angle. So it could be, one could look at it both ways. Is that okay? All right, thank you. Good question. We're looking for more questions. We're eager for more questions. Yes.
Thank you so much. Yes. What is the line between our worldly duty and our spiritual duty? How do we know when we are even trying to take on a worldly duty that's not necessarily ours? How do we make this discernment?
When we really have our act together, there's no line. Because even the worldly duty becomes the spiritual duty. And this is similar to what we were just speaking about, right? Is being a parent a worldly duty? Well, in one sense it is, right? It's like you committed a physical act. You got a physical result, and that's in the form of a child. And it's widely accepted that you've taken on a responsibility because of that. And that responsibility will generally require getting involved in the world. You're going to have to earn some money to provide the proper shelter, to provide the proper food and care for that child. Tending and caring for the family in one sense is like the most central worldly duty, you could say, right? And it leads to so many, then you got to get the job. Now you're in the workplace, right? How's the workplace going for everybody's spiritual life? Everybody like that? It's like you find yourself with worldly people, taking on worldly concerns, worldly anxieties, right? Oh, the business is not doing so well today. Begin to suffer because of that. Worry about it, anxiety. Worry about the children. Are they being raised well? Are they understanding what's important in life? Maybe they're not. Maybe they're rebelling against my care. I'm simply trying to care, and they're rebelling against it. They resent me for it. Oh, now I'm really in anxiety. And now how do I focus on spiritual life when I got all of this anxiety going on in my head? So you can certainly say that parenthood is a worldly duty. But for the bhakti yogi, they don't see that. You see, this is the difference between the materialistic parent and the spiritual parent. Okay? They both love the children. But the materialistic parent thinks the child is mine. And I derive my happiness through the connection with the child. Okay? If I'm not getting that happiness, then we have a problem. Whereas the spiritual minded person understands the child is not mine. Or in a sense, it's mine only on a surface level. For just a moment in time, I've been given the responsibility to respond to this child as if it were mine. But ultimately, this is a soul that's eternal. For all we know, in our previous lives, the child was my parent. They say that happens. You flip. You go. And so we're two souls. I've been given temporarily a role to play for this child, and that is parents. In Sanskrit, that role is called an upadhi. You familiar with this word, upadhi? It means a false designation, a designation that I embrace for some time, but it's not who I really am. Sometimes the more jnanic verses of the ancient texts, they speak in cold, stoic ways to help us see through the illusion. So they'll say, yeah, you and your children, your loved ones, you are like two little twigs that are floating down a river, and they come together for a moment, they're touching each other, and then the force of the river separates them forever. They never touch each other again, right? So that these are verses that are meant to inspire, like sannyas, like these gentlemen that we see here in the orange. It's just like they walk away from the world, with a real stoic kind of detachment, and that kind of thinking helps them walk away from it. But that's one path of yoga. It's not everyone's path. There are other ways that one can see their relationships with their family. And again, one can see that this child is not exactly my child. Although I love this child, I embrace this child, I recognize my responsibility to this child. And that was a responsibility that I carry out not exactly for my own enjoyment. It's a responsibility that I carry out to please Sri Krishna. Right? I see, this is Bhagavad Gita, that when you've learned the truth, this is Bhagavad Gita 434, Tadvati pranipatena pariprashnena sevya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. That just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from them submissively and render service unto them. Right? These wise people, they can impart knowledge onto you because they have seen the truth. Okay. What is the truth that they've seen? What is the knowledge that they can impart to you? And that's mentioned in the next verse, 435. Would you like to hear that verse? This is really important. I haven't memorized this one. I really do need to memorize this one. Need to get my glasses too. Yajgyatva na punar moham. When you're no longer in illusion. Evam yasyasi pandava. Yena bhutyan yasheshani. Draksha yatomai. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. Wow. That's great. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but a part of the Supreme, or, in other words, that they are mine. This is what Krishna is speaking, right? You will see every living being. This is what you'll learn from the great seers of the truth. We're moving through this world and saying, this is my child, this one isn't, this person is my friend, this person is my enemy, this is my countryman, this one's a foreigner, like this. We make separations. The great souls, because they're seeing beyond the body, and they're seeing the body where there's so many differences and constant change, they're seeing deeper, they're seeing to the soul. And when you see to the soul, you say, oh, every one is a spark of the same spiritual energy. Every one is, it's kind of like saying this sunlight is connected to the sun and this sunlight is not connected to the sun. You can't see like that. All the sunlight is emanating and is the energy of the sun. Every soul is emanating from and is the energy of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. Right? So Krishna is saying you'll see every living being as part of me, or that they are mine. My child is part of Krishna and belongs to Krishna. My temporary role, my temporary upadhi, is as parent to this child, to provide care, to provide resources, to provide love to this child, so that it'll be raised healthy and ideally will receive the knowledge, the understanding, the inspiration that it needs to transcend this world. Now, if I'm doing all of that, is that a worldly duty? Or is that a spiritual act, a spiritual seva, a service? You see? And then when I'm going to work, well, I'm working for the same purpose, right? And whatever I do, there's a point where the bhakti yogi stops making decisions for themselves. It's not like they don't have the discernment to choose what to do, but they stop acting for their separated, independent pleasure, and they move harmoniously with the will of the divine. And when you get to that point, your anxiety just starts to decrease, right? It's just you're like, this is right, this is natural, this is real, this is who I am. All of that fighting, all of that resisting was just bringing me anxiety. Now I move according to the will of the divine. And so that those actions according to that will may appear externally to be worldly, but internally for that yogi, no, it's all moving according to that. Arjuna was being asked to fight a war, right? But Krishna is saying, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, all of the time, mam anusmara, think of me, meditate on me, yujacha, while you're fighting. So he's saying any activity in this world can be connected, can be a meditation. And he's telling Arjuna, what is it? Satatam yuktanam. Stay always connected in all of your duties. And if you do them in that consciousness, they're free of karma. They don't bind you. Rather, they release you. So our workplace, our worldly duties can become, just like the battlefield became the field of Arjuna's contemplation, mamanusmara yudhyacha. So the field of our so-called worldly duties, the home, the workplace, etc., those can become the field of our spiritual contemplation. And in that sense, it all becomes spiritual. That being said, we still might need to carefully consider the balance between the worldly activity that I do, so-called worldly activity in this case, and the more fully otherworldly activities that I do in life. And where do I find the balance? So it'll be different for everyone, and that's what a guru is for, to help you find that balance, right? They take all the practices, all the teachings, and they customize them. Knowing the student's nature, knowing well the path, they customize the path for the student so that they strike the right balance, and then they adjust according to how things are going. But here's a piece of advice that I once received that I think is really relevant. Is everybody listening? This might be important for you. People standing in line for prasadam. This might be good for you. Consider it, please. You see, we need to step out, even when our worldly duties are spiritualized. Still, it's healthy for us to step out of them at times, and live fully free of any external designations. Okay, so like I'll give you an example. You've probably seen people. You've been in temples, obviously. And seen the Archana Seva, the meditation of the worship of the deity form on the altar. That's a meditation. And you've probably also seen sometimes people have that in their own home, or even when they travel. Right? Maybe they have a small little Shalagram Shila, or maybe a little Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, a little Lord Nrsimhadev. Maybe they carry it in a little pouch, or carry it around in their chests when they travel. And then when they get to their hotel room, they make a nice clean place, set him up. And then they do their daily, they make their offering. So when they do that, let's say they spend 20 minutes in a day, then there are different steps. It's not just some random, silly, sentimental thing. It's a science. Carefully considered, carefully, also like kind of you can say carefully curated, what they're going to do to experience something within, right? It's not just like I get this over with. It's to experience something within. And so the first thing that one does the first thing one would do in this Archana Padati, in this following this path of this, in this particular ritual, daily ritual, is that they would take a shower, dressed in some clean clothes, right? They might, then they do something that's called Bhuta Shuddhi, which kind of means like the purification of the self. And what do we purify ourselves of? The temporary roles and designations, the upadhis that we have to embrace in our roles as mother, father, husband, wife, business person, whatever it is. For the next 20 minutes, I need to shed myself of that skin. I'm going to pick it back up and put it back on when I'm done. But for these 20 minutes, I want to be existing in my spiritual form. I want to forget that I'm a mother, father, husband, wife, all these things. I set that aside. So they do it in different, sometimes they do pranayama. Like that. To calm the mind. Because it's hard to just drop it all like that, And sometimes in our lineage, the great Saint Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gave this little recommendation, a quick way to do it. Sometimes, like some people, when they do they take 20 minutes just to let all that go, more. But there's one verse that can be chanted just to do it. You take a few deep breaths, calm yourself down, close your eyes, and you chant this verse. I am not a Brahmana, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya, I'm not a Shudra. I'm not a Brahmachari, I'm not a Grihastha, I'm not a Vanaprastha, I'm not a sannyasi. What am I? Do you know?
Das.
Yes. Gopi Bhartur Kamalayor. Dasa Anudasa. I am the servant of the servant of the servant of Sri Krishna, the lover of the gopis. That's my real identity. So while I'm doing this seva, that's all I identify as, right? And then when I've completed it and those worldly duties are waiting for me to step up and take care of, then I re-embrace those identities and play those roles. But because I've done that 20 minutes, my ability to remember my true identity as I play that role becomes reinforced. You understand? And if you do it steadily every day with the right devotion, good devotion, without interruption. In other words, you don't do it sometimes and not do it other times. No, you do it every day, steady. And over the course of time, that understanding of my true identity beyond my temporary roles becomes more firmly rooted in me. Okay, so that's taking 20 minutes, but I still haven't said the thing that's in relation to what I wanted to share. Are you ready for this now? You're still with me? People taking prasadam? This is for you too. People over here at the henna booth, please consider this as well. Are you listening at the henna booth? Okay. Okay. And that is this, a good piece of advice for the bhakti yogis. There need to be some hours in the day that are 100% completely, exclusively dedicated to bhakti, dedicated to Sri Krishna. Certain hours in the day. Right? Maybe when you wake up, maybe in the evening, certain hours exclusively for Krishna. There need to be certain days within the month that are exclusively devoted to Krishna service. Right? Maybe Akadashis. Some people have to work on Akadashi, and that's good. But you got to find a day. I'm going to take a little retreat. I'm going to spend this day just for devotional service today. Right? Certain hours in the day, certain days in the month. This one may be tougher. Certain months in the year, like Kartik. Right? Maybe, ideally, we can take a vacation from work. In the United States, they don't give you any time off. It's like 2 weeks or something like that. It's hard. But, many people have come here to be part of this festival. Maybe it can't be a full month, but maybe at least a couple weeks. Couple weeks, at least a month, fully, exclusively devoted to your spiritual practice, to your sadhana, to your bhakti. So certain hours in the day, certain days in the month, certain months in the year, and certain years in one's life exclusively devoted to Sri Krishna's seva, to your spiritual practice. This is one way one can draw a line between the worldly duties. I'm going to do my worldly duties, but I'm also going to be careful. I'm going to be adamant to set aside time exclusively for my spiritual practice, where I exist outside of my temporary roles and identities, and exist within my spiritual identity. I need to get used to that. I need to become comfortable in that skin and realize that. And if I'm not going to be regular, this is Patanjali's in relation to Ashtanga Yoga. He said that it can be achieved, this samādhi, it can be achieved through practice and detachment. And he defines practice as something that's done with the right devotion, without interruption, meaning like daily, over the course of a long time. And when it's done with the right devotion, without interruption, over the course of a long time, it becomes firmly rooted. But if it's done with wishy-washy, devotion, if it's done interrupted, I do it this week, I missed it last week, I skip a couple days, I did extra the next week, it's not the same. And if one's not patient, you got to do it. You got to do it steadily, you got to do it over the course of time. If you can do all three, it becomes firmly rooted. So even though you're engaged in the world, your spiritual identity is becoming more manifest all the time. It's arising within you. That requires determination, it requires focus, it requires good sangha, it requires good instruction. But it can be done. We should be determined to do it. Okay? Thank you.
What's the verse? The verse you said?
What's the verse that we read? 435. Bhagavad Gita 435. Okay. More questions? Oh, yes. You got a question. Cersei.
I'm not sure if you want to answer this because it's a bit controversial, I suppose. Okay, me too. Love it. Oh, you're not? Okay, you really might not want to answer this then. Okay. So, I don't know how many of you are actually associated with ISKCON as a entity. You don't have to answer it, do I? Yeah. Okay. So, People place a lot of importance on Diksha gurus, but in a lot of the scriptures, actually, Siksha guru is more important. Like in our parampara, everybody mostly has a Siksha guru. And women have been said that we are able to become Siksha gurus, but not Diksha gurus. So I'm wondering, how can we follow spirituality and Krishna without becoming institutionalized? Because I'm so not interested in having my identity formed to an institution. But since bhakti is a function of the heart, I want to dedicate my life to Krishna and not some sort of rules that people may have or may not make, depending on people's interest. So how do we become uninstitutionalized, but still following Vedanta? I'm so sorry.
No. This is a very good question. So I thought I was going to have to get deep into the political question, but really you're asking a broader question, which just has to do with the relation between spiritual practice and spiritual institution. Is that fair enough? Yeah. So I'll just speak in general about this and let me know if I'm hitting the mark in any way and you can ask more if you like to. One thing, we're sitting in the middle of a festival right now. And this festival is happening with the support of an institution. Without the support of an institution, this would not be happening right now. Right? It requires organization, it requires people playing different roles, it requires leadership, certain hierarchy. Without it, none of this goes on. That feast doesn't get cooked, that kirtan doesn't happen, that hall's not available, this microphone isn't here, none of it's happening. So institutional support, hierarchies and people playing different roles and so on, is necessary to make things work in the material realm. But they can very easily begin to work against their purpose. Very easily. Right? They're meant to serve a spiritual purpose, and very easily they can start to work against that purpose if we're not careful. People, spiritualists, with insightful spiritualists, with a keen kind of insight, can learn how to dial it nicely. Learn when there needs to be a bit of rigidity and when there needs to be a bit of flexibility. That's challenging. There's a verse. It's one of the most famous verses in our lineage. It could be argued that it's the most important verse in our lineage. Any guesses? You got one guess? What do you think it is? No, not from the Gita. From Sri Chaitanya. One of his 8 verses he wrote in his Shikshastakam. Trinadapi sunichena, teror iva suhishnuna, amanena manadena, kirtanya sadahari. It's said by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, talk about insightful Vaishnava, insightful Bhakti Yogi. He said that this verse is our Siddha Pranali. This verse is our path to the spiritual perfection. It's be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. Offer all respects to every living being and require no respect for oneself. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly with the deepest absorption, without interruption. You understand? Now, that's Sri Chaitanya's verse. That's a verse that's very Gaudiya Vaishnava, fundamental in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. I once heard that verse spoken about from a person not in our lineage, from a person in another bhakti lineage. And he had a different view of it that I never heard, but I thought it was interesting. Trinadapi sunichena, you have to be like a blade of grass. Tador iva suhishnuna, you need to be like a tree. So we say more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. But his point was sometimes you have to be flexible and sometimes you have to be rigid. Okay? All right. And so institutions by nature, they bring a rigidity, they bring a form. They create walls and they, it's a container. Exactly. Sometimes that's without that, we just all just disperse and there's nothing to hold it all together and but they very easily become too rigid and they begin to crush the individual. you know it's very common. And so the really insightful, they know how to when it should be rigid and when it should be flexible, how to dial that. Sometimes having a spiritual guide within the institution, they can help you navigate that. I once asked a lady bhakti yogi, I said, I know that within this institution a lot of times women have been disrespected or not fully empowered. For all these years, for 50 years, how have you managed to stay inspired and continue to advance the way you had advanced? And she said, I became kind of like water. Water, when it hits an obstacle, just doesn't necessarily fight it. It finds its way to move around it. Right. And so women, yes, but practically anyone in a spiritual institution can benefit from that instruction. The key is this. I consider myself a part of this institution, the Hare Krishna movement, for nearly 40 years now. Sometimes it's embarrassed me. Sometimes it's disappointed me. Sometimes it's concerned me in really serious ways. All this is true. But it's given me everything that I have as well. Somehow, despite its flaws, it's delivered to me all the meaning in my life, all the support in my life. It's given me the best people, the best guidance, the best teachings. Everything it's given me. So it has my gratitude. Now the key is this. The institution is meant to serve the spiritual lives of the people. It's not that the people are meant to serve the institution. This can be lost sometimes, right? The institution is meant to serve the people. As long as the institution is serving the spiritual lives of the people, it's doing its job. If it's doing it imperfectly, we try to improve it. If it's really off, then the institution doesn't deserve our involvement. And if we're going to be set too high a standard of what the institution is going to deliver, we're going to be disappointed for sure. But within that institution, a wise person can find the corners of it and the people in it that fully resonate with them. And where I've often found that is on the edges of the institution. Right? On the edges of the institution. The people that are loyal to the institution, but also can recognize, can reach out beyond its rigidity. I find people on those edges of it. I find the deep thinkers there, spiritually advanced people there on the edge. That's a place you can look. Look on the edges. I'd say look on the edges, and you might find that within the I know some people that are the deepest spiritual people that I know, that have left their ego behind long ago, that live a life of full surrender and deep absorption. And they operate loyally within the institution, even when it disappoints them. When externally it would appear to be more spiritual to rebel, they don't superficially embrace that model. They always act in such a way that will bring the best results. So they do the best to preserve the institution because they see all the good that it does, and still reach out to the hearts of those who the institution may have hurt in some way. Right? Then to that person I bow my head. It's easy to be the rebel and to shout at the institution. That's a very easy thing to do. It's not going to be hard to find flaws in any institution. But can we move in such a way where we bring about a better good? That requires more maturity in my mind. So as you've been disappointed, I've also been disappointed. But I also I try to follow in the footsteps of the great souls that I see. Okay. Yes. Question. One moment.
So, in reality, is that also a test of evolution of a soul on the spiritual path?
I believe it really is. I believe it really is. Why am I acting? Am I putting on a show? Or am I sincerely surrendering to what will bring the highest good? That's something that one has to ask themselves, and it has to be asked with a deep. If we can't ask ask ourselves these questions with a true honesty, then our advancement, we're not passing the test. As you use the word test, we're not passing. That is the test, and that'll be within the institution, without the institution, wherever we step. We always have the challenge and the freedom to say, am I acting on a superficial level, or am I acting on a deeply meaningful level? And that'll look like different things. Sometimes the most rigid looking person externally is really the one that's most fully soft within, and vice versa. So we have to try to in one sense, Dharma means just trying to do what's right. Always try to do what's right. Thank you. So nice to see you. How are we doing on time? 7:55. Okay, so we have a bit of time left. More questions? Ankit always has good questions. Yeah? Should I send the mic back to him?
Hello, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So my question is more of a thought. So I just wanted maybe one more view on it. So once a person is starting a spiritual journey, he is kind of no more that much interested in the material life. Like earlier, I used to love Bollywood, Hollywood songs, listen to those kind of musics. Now any music which is not a kirtan or not a bhajan, it is no more music to me. It is just noise. So you change, and when I go for vacations or something, I still don't like it. It's not a holy place. It is not giving me that inner joy that I used to get from it. So kind of I've been associated with it to some extent, not fully, but to some extent I'm not finding that kind of joy in materialistic life as I used to. At the same time, in my spiritual, thank you. And at the same time, in my spiritual journey, since I feel it is just a beginning, and I am far from my goal, so I don't find the joy that one alignment person can find. Maybe talking to God, seeing God, or whatever the ultimate goal is. So, there is a sweet pain. I miss, being a part of that spiritual life, but I'm not there also. So I'm suffering in some way for being detached from the material life, and also I'm not getting the benefits of the spiritual life. So I'm stuck in between. So I just wanted to share this thought, and what are your thoughts on it? How would you want to?
Thank you for sharing your inner life. And it's the inner life that so many spiritual aspirants, it's a stage that many find themselves in. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 2nd chapter, Krishna begins to give Arjuna the vision of the sage of steady mind. Stita Dhir Muni is the the word that he uses, sage of steady mind. He begins to describe it in different ways. Arjuna says, what are his symptoms? How does he talk? How does he walk? How does he sit? Right? And when it comes to sitting, it's said that he can withdraw his senses. When he's inactive, these are not literal, not questions not to be taken literally, but be taken figuratively. How does he speak means how does he respond to the external circumstances? How does he walk means how is his consciousness situated when he's active? And how does he sit means how is his consciousness situated when he's still, inactive? And there it's described that he can withdraw the senses within, like the tortoise. And then Krishna goes on to speak at some length about the control of the senses and how important it is. He says that even just one sense, if it's uncontrolled, it can draw you way off course. He describes that if the senses aren't controlled, how it goes, what is it? Dhyayato vishya pung sangate shupajayate sangat sanjayate kama krodha bijayate. What is it? Anyway, the next verse follows that by contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops an attachment for them. From such attachment, lust arises. From lust, anger. From anger, complete delusion. From complete delusion, loss of memory. From memory loss, the intelligence is bewildered. And when the intelligence is bewildered, one falls down again into the material pool. So he's talking about sense control. And when we talk about sense control, for a lot of us that sounds like, oh, how unpleasant. I used to listen to beautiful Bollywood songs. They're so lovely. And now I have to cut them off. And when I cut them off, I feel like maybe my heart's becoming a little bit harder. Renunciation is an important part of yoga. But if we're not careful, renunciation makes the heart hard. How can we renounce the things of this world and keep a soft heart? Krishna speaks about that there as well. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasiddehina rasavarjam rasopyasya padam dristva nirvartate. This last line is important. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, although the taste for sense enjoyment still remains. The mind is still, I'm not doing it anymore, but my mind still wants it. That's an uncomfortable position to be in for a yogi, right? The embodied soul may restrict themselves from sense enjoyment, although the taste for the sense enjoyment still remains. But ceasing such engagements, padam dristva, by experiencing a higher taste, they are fixed in consciousness. Right. So this is the key, that we can experience a higher taste, and when you experience the higher taste, automatically you let go of the lower tastes, without hardening the heart, without becoming rigid. You let it go because you're tasting something more.
So the situation where you're not being able to get the higher taste and you have to let go of the lower taste. So this is the situation where you're stuck in.
There's one real important lesson I can share. And I'll share it because it's not only do I believe and not only is it my experience, but it is said by the great souls and within the sacred texts how important this idea is. But if you do your spiritual practice, even you do it with great regularity, with great discipline, but at the same time, you're not very careful to honor every soul in this world. You may offend other souls in this world. You may find yourself caught up in loops of criticism of other souls in this world. Then it's difficult to develop the taste. It's difficult to develop that taste. So I'm not saying that you're doing that, but I'm saying it's something to keep in mind. really try to move through this world honoring every living being. And then likely that taste will grow stronger in you. It'll rise in you. It'll rise. And then you can go in there, you can taste it. You feel that happiness. Last night I was in there, Kirtan, very pure soul was chanting. Indrajumna Swami was. And everybody in that room was just moving to the music in a state of real happiness, tasting it, you know. He knew how to keep it right in that space, right in that place. And everybody stayed there, remained there, floated there, tasting it, you know. So also, the influence of great souls, they can give you that taste also. So honor every living being, and especially these great souls who have that taste. Stay close. Stay close, but learn how to be close. Like the fly is close also, but it's like it becomes an annoyance. But learn how to be close to the great souls. And that taste can also be given to you as well. So just some thoughts like that. But you stick with it, Ankit. You will get there for sure. Thank you. Very sincere. One more question. Any more question? One more? Okay, Celeste.
Thanks, Prabhu. I think maybe 3 or 4 days ago, somebody asked you a question around following a guru or knowing who to follow and whatnot. How do you know when you have the right readiness to follow a guru or spiritual master? Is there anything in the Shastras that gives us guidance around that, or any wisdom that you can share based on your experience?
I will do my best. One way to answer that is you know that you're ready when you're ready to do what they say. and because it's kind of like even if we kind of use more mundane examples, like say you want to, well, let's say you want to go to Juilliard. In New York City, Juilliard is the prestigious music school. You can go to Juilliard, but if you're not willing to follow the instructions of the maestros there, the teachers there, then it's not going to make any difference. So the accepting a guru, let's say accepting initiation into a lineage through a guru, is a commitment on two ends. It's a commitment from guru to disciple, and it's a commitment from disciple to guru. The guru is committing, I'm dedicating myself to sacrificing, to guide you on this path. There's much more in it for the disciple than there is for the guru. And the disciple is saying, I'm committed to following your instructions. Otherwise, how can you fulfill your commitment if I'm not willing to follow your directions? So there's obviously got to be a lot of trust there, and a lot of genuine affection, a lot of love like that. Now we use the word initiation, but when we say it, commonly people picture in their mind a ceremony, right? The initiation ceremony, wherein vows are made, mantra is officially given. So there's meaning and there's purpose to the initiation ceremony. But initiation doesn't mean just the ceremony. And more important, it means that within the heart of the disciple, something is initiated. That within the heart of the disciple is a conviction is born, or a conviction is initiated. And that conviction is, are you ready to hear? That conviction is, so many lifetimes I pursued happiness through external things. And where has it gotten me? It's gotten me in cycles of samsara over the course of many, many lifetimes. So much suffering I continue to endure in this world due to this mistaken idea that my happiness will be found through the external things of this world. Now, I understand that it will never happen that way. I'm convinced of that, and I'm 100% determined that I'm going to turn and follow the spiritual path to its conclusion. That's what's initiated within the heart, that kind of conviction. Now, most commonly, that conviction will be born by the words and the example of a person. And when the words and the example of that person ignite that conviction in one, that's your guru. That's your guru. Right? That's essentially how it works. Now, of course, so much can be said about particularly how the Vaishnava lineages understand what a guru is. I'll say this. First of all, they're not the model is not like the enlightened one. The model is the representative. Right? How do we know whether they're enlightened or not? People can pose in so many ways. They can speak in riddles. Generally, it was Nietzsche who used this, I feel like, a very insightful quip of his. He says, they muddy the waters to make them look deep. Right? They muddy the waters to make them look deep. You speak really in vague riddles and everything. Oh, he must be so deep. Guru should be clear. To speak clearly. And not pose as I'm an enlightened one. They say, I'm not making anything up. It's not like I went into some deep state, discovered all this stuff, and now I'm... No. It's been handed down to me. Now, they should have realization of it. Not just book knowledge, but realized knowledge. Not just jnana, but vijnana, because they've lived it. But still, they're not making up a thing. They're saying, I'm not making up a thing. I'm carefully handing down to you what's been handed down to me. I'm the representative of it. And whatever honor is given to me is not for me, but that honor is handed back up. So the divya jnana, the divine knowledge is handed down, and the respect, you could even say the worship, in a sense, is handed up. It's not for me. I'm like a mailman, is what the guru is like, I'm delivering the message unchanged, like that. But with care, with love, with affection, for sure. But not posing as an enlightened one, the careful representative, careful deliverer, like that. That's a guru. Thank you. Maybe how's time? 8. Oh, we have time for more questions, 1 or 2, the quick ones. We're looking for a good one. Yes, Paul in the back. Please do. Take the microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. The other day you spoke a little bit about samādhi. And in my head I started contemplating about samādhi, what does it actually mean? And as for us as the beginners, how we can maybe start practicing samādhi and what does it actually mean. And if I can tell what I could grasp about it is that we more and more think of him, align our thinking with him, what he wants, and in that way we start doing hopefully we start doing what the heart says, what he says to do us, and in that way we start forming relationship, and through that relationship we start forming feelings, and those feelings help us to form the relationship, and help us to form more feelings, and then we go deeper and deeper. Is that?
I like that. Yes, that's good. I'll say it like this. So, etymologically, am I saying that correctly? I hope I am. Etymologically, we can break down the word samādhi. Sama means evenness. Dhi means meditation. So samādhi means that the meditation remains the same. The thoughts remain the same. The thoughts are fixed, you could say. And when that word is used, I think certainly It's there in Bhagavad Gita and in so many other places. And of course, there's quite a bit of discourse on it in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And I think Patanjali gives a couple visions of that samādhi in the Yoga Sutras, but there we find it's a state of trance. Okay? So in other words, what would samadhi look like externally? It would look like a yogi in a yogic pose who's, in a sense, detached his thoughts from his body, entirely anchored his thoughts, bound his thoughts to one object in such a way where they no longer waver whatsoever. So it's complete steadiness, samādhi, complete steadiness of meditation, unwavering meditative focus, held for a good, steady, long period of time. And again, there it's described that focus is so complete and exclusive that it's entirely riveted to the object, so much so that there's nothing else within the awareness of the yogi. Meaning that they've even lost the awareness that they are observing the object. That there's only the object in their awareness. That's Patanjali's samādhi. Elusive state of awareness.
And it's not possible while it's functioning in the world.
Well, that's not Patanjali's path. Is you walk away from the world. You walk to achieve this. Yes. And Bhagavad Gita is also saying like this when Krishna describes more or less the same path in the 6th chapter, saying you walk away, you go to a secluded place, you sit down on your asana, you control your mind. So that's maybe the common conception of samādhi. It's Arjuna's conception of samādhi in the Bhagavad Gita. This is how he's conceiving of what yoga is, that you go into that state. You walk away from the world, steady the mind. But Krishna is saying there's another samādhi. There's another way to understand evenness of the mind. What's the 248? I need the first word. It's slipping my mind. You got it, Chabuji? I'll have it in a second here. Yogastha kuru karmani. Say it again. Sangam. Tyaktva. Dhananjaya. Sangha tyaktvam. Give up all of your attachments. Siddhi asiddhyo bhutva. Don't worry about victory or defeat. Then this. Samatvam yoga uchate. More or less the same. Not samadhi here, but samatvam. Evenness. And it's speaking about evenness of mind. Such evenness is called yoga. Okay. So he's saying to Arjuna, fight a battle in a state of samatvam or samadhi. Right? So that's not a state of trance. But my awareness is riveted on him as I'm carrying out this activity. So that's another way one can think of samādhi. And Krishna speaks about it that way throughout several times in the 2nd chapter and so on. He's not necessarily speaking about a state of yogic trance. He's speaking about always think of me. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskar. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me because you're very dear to me. There's so much, especially once you hit those middle 8 chapters, and then towards the end of the 18th chapter, it's all about always think of me. Stay connected to me in this way. Realize who I am. See me everywhere. See me everywhere. Seeing everything in relation. I use this example. There's a musician who's performed on or produced. He's sold records that he's either played on or produced. He's sold over 850 million records. It's the most of anyone in the world. Paul McCartney is like not even close to approaching that. He's number 2. Does anyone know who that is? No, I don't think. Did he? Unless I haven't heard. Does anyone know who it is? I wish someone did, because I'm forgetting his name. What is it? I want to say Niles. I'm forgetting now. He was in a band called Chic. It was a disco band back in the... I'm sorry? Nile Rodgers. I wanted to say Nile Rodgers, but I thought I was wrong. Yes, from the band Chic. Nile Rodgers. Okay, good. I'm sorry? He's rather that he's either played on or produced. He's really big as a producer. Over 850 million. It's amazing. And if you go down the list of people he's produced, it's like, oh, it blows your mind. Like, yes. Now, most people have never heard of him, and people are hearing his music all the time. So they're hearing the music, they may like the music, but they don't understand who's behind it. But someone with a developed ear. I remember I heard a song that he produced. There's a song called Get Lucky by the band called Daft Punk. Okay? When I heard that song, which came out like 2010 or something like that, I said, this is like a real disco song. Like, I haven't heard anything like this since the 70s. It was him, right? He produced that record. I think he even wrote the song, probably. So I'm not saying I have the most developed musical ear, but someone that really knows music will hear his influence, his creativity, right? The creativity born from his mind and heart coming through the music, and they'll know that's him. That's Nile Rodgers. I can tell, right? Krishna's saying, become like that. See everything as a manifestation of my heart, the creativity of my heart, the creativity of my mind. When you see the sun, that's my creativity. When you see the moon, that's my creativity. When you taste water, that's my creativity. See me everywhere, right? Arjuna, when he heard about the path of Ashtanga Yoga in the 6th chapter, he turned to Krishna disappointed, a bit distraught, saying, I don't think I can do that path because the mind's more difficult to control than the wind. Arjuna replied, it's okay, Arjuna, you can still be a yogi. And yoginam api sarvesham, amongst all the yogis, all the different varieties of yogis, madgaten antaratmana, the one who's abiding on me deeply within himself. Shradhavan, with great faith, bhajate yomam, worshipping me. Same yukta tamo mataha, that person is the most yukta, the most connected to me in meditation, and they're the best. That is my opinion. They're the highest yogi of all, the one that's always meditating on Krishna within. So then the question would become, at that point, the Bhagavad Gita shifts. That's the last verse of the 6th chapter. And you could say it's the last verse of the first part of the Bhagavad Gita, the first 6 chapters. That's the cusp of the middle 6 chapters, which are the essential essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So the question would be, well then how? How does one think of Krishna all the time? That's samādhi, even though it may be active. See me in the sun, see me in the moon, see me in water, see me here, see me there. Know that everything is resting on me, like this, as pearls are strung on a thread. When you see pearls strung on a thread, you see the pearls. You don't see the thread, but you should know that the thread is there. When someone hears Nile Rodgers' music, they should know he's behind it. They can tell. And the yogi that hears about Krishna, meditates about Krishna, chants Krishna's name, serves Krishna, they'll begin to see Krishna everywhere, even though in one sense invisible, but yes, he's the one that's holding it all this together, right? He's the one. This, in one sense, this is called Paramatma realization. Brahman realization means I realize the non-personal absolute that's everywhere. And in realizing that, I realize I am made of that same Brahman, I'm made of that same energy, which means I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not any of these false identities. I'm free of all anxieties. This is Brahman realization. I'm eternal. I'm conscious. I'm blissful. That's me. That's, you could be said, is the first stage of deep spiritual realization. The next stage is called Paramatma realization. If you have this Paramatma realization, you have Brahman realization within it. So it's like, if you draw a circle, you can call it Brahman realization, and then you draw a circle around that circle, which contains the first one. This is called Paramatma realization. Paramatma realization means I realize that behind this universe, there's an intelligence, a divine intelligence, that's supporting it and maintaining it all. That's within my heart, within your heart, within the heart of every living being. The Native Americans, through their meditation, they understood it, and they gave it the same name. The yogis here, they call it Paramatma. Para means the higher, the supreme. Atma means the spirit, right? And what did the Native Americans call the same thing? Call it the Great Spirit. The Great Spirit. And they said the Great Spirit is within everyone, and everyone is within the Great Spirit. Same exact thing that the yogis are saying, right? So when I realize that God is within everything, and everything is within God, that God is within my heart and your heart and the heart of every living being, I realize that everything is moving by His direction. When I get that, it becomes incredibly spiritually empowering, because now I see everything going on in my life is not happening to me, but happening for me. And I begin to respond to everything in life as if I am responding to God, right? So everything. So I'm seeing God everywhere, right? That is samadhi as well. Now, even that Paramatma realization, it totally, if you've got that, you've got Brahman realization. You realize I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, I am eternal, I'm free of anxiety, all of that. But there's one more circle, and that's Bhagavan realization. Bhagavan means I realize, the first one is I realize God's non-personal energy. I use this example sometimes. I got to come up with a better analogy because it just doesn't feel good when I say it. But the great saints, they say this Brahman energy is God, but it's restrained. It's God restrained of all of His beautiful attributes. So it's almost like putting God through a filter, and then you just come up with the energy without all of the personal attributes. Paramatma, more of those personal attributes are there. But in Bhagavan, it's the full picture of the Supreme with all personal attributes. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan all contained in pure spiritual form. Beautiful, divine form. In that form, you can connect with the spiritual, the divine, most completely, because you can relate to it in full love. Complete, intimate love. You can connect with Bhagavan. So Bhagavan contains Paramatma and Brahman, all. And samadhi can be expressed through this love. Because when you fall in love with someone, all the songs say about this, like, right? I can't stop thinking about you. Right? That's samadhi. It's another way of understanding samadhi. Thank you. What is it? You're too good to be true. Can't take my mind off of you. Right? This is what the gopis are experiencing. The gopis of Vrindavan, they're saying we're trying not to think of this boy, but he's invaded our thoughts, and we can't, no matter how hard we try, we can't stop thinking of him. That's their yoga. It's so fixed, right? The Ashtanga yogis are trying really hard to fix their mind. The gopis are trying not to think of God, and they can't stop. Therefore, they're called the Yogeshvaris. That's a very good problem. We pray for that problem. Therefore, they're called the Yogeshvaris, the greatest yogis of all. The gopis of Vrindavan, called the Yogeshvaris.
What about Gopa?
Gopas are also, they're way up there too. But
They are more like friendly relationship.
yeah, this is an incredibly, I mean, it's just said that the romance is a bit more intensified. But yes, we can say they're on the,
Eternal, and then
yes, like that. Yeah.
Yashoda is the second, and then
Yeah. Yeah. All right, everybody. It's been a wonderful evening. I've really enjoyed spending this time with you. We do this every evening for the next so many weeks. Thank you. Thank you. And again, please join us every morning. We're in the hall here. My buddy, my friend, Yogi Charu, incredible yoga and meditation teacher, teaches from 8 until 8:50. I come on at 9 with yoga philosophy, bhakti discussions. I go from 9 until 9:50 or 9 to 10. And then lots of kirtan after that. Please join us. And if you like these kind of conversations, you'll probably enjoy our morning sessions. So be happy to see you there. Thank you all so much. Hari Om Tat Sat.